Okay, let's take a look at this example on broadcasting standards poll of teenagers and young adults. And the question is, do you agree or disagree with this statement? There's too much sex, bad language, and violence on television. And you are to comment on the sampling method and the effect it might have on the survey results. So basically you have to confine yourself to how did they take the poll? What did they do? Was it random? Did they follow, procedure? Is there any way that you can build in any kind of bias? So you need to look at the sampling technique. You need to look and talk about bias. All these things. Okay, so let's take a look. So first of all, I'm going to talk about some things that may not have anything to do with the sampling, but have to do with, chances of bias and things like that. So first of all, the client. The client is the person that pays for the advertisement or the poll or whatever. And this is Family First New Zealand. Now, Family First New Zealand is a right-wing, conservative, anti-abortion group. Now, they may have a particular agenda. If they have a particular agenda, are they going to ask questions and do a poll that is going to sort of move towards a particular philosophy or get a particular result? Are they going to manipulate the questions and how people respond and so on? Do they have an agenda? This is an important point of view. Poll dates, evenings of Sunday the 4th to Tuesday the 6th. So they only really polled over a couple of days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 3 days in the evenings in December 2011. Now, is that enough to get everybody would this exclude people, the poll dates? Are you going to have an opportunity for everybody to have an equal chance of being surveyed during that time? Or should they have done it over a few months or over more days? So, the poll dates, very specific. Could they, eliminate some people from possibly being in at the time and basically having an opinion? The sample selection. So a random selection, so this is good, it's random, of 6,000 nationwide phone numbers. So 6,000 is a good number, that's a nice big number, but it's phone numbers, landlines, and with anyone at home aged between 15 and 21 inclusive asked to take part. So we've got an issue with the sample selection. Yes, it was random, but did everyone have a chance of being selected? And also, was there a problem with response rate and so on? And we'll talk about that. So phone, the problem is that we have a landline, right? And the second that you get landline surveys, you have an issue. Especially in this day and age. I mean, most student age individuals don't have a landline. No landline. So that's an issue. Creates bias. Why does it create bias? Because it eliminates people from, not everyone has an opportunity to respond and so on. So you've got to always say what the bias is, right? And then explain why it creates bias. So landline, most students aged, individuals of this age, between 15 and 21, probably don't have landlines. And if they're college students and living in dorms and so on, they probably only have a phone line. And no landline, that creates bias because not everyone has an opportunity to respond. Opportunity to respond, right? So yes, it was random. This is good. It's a big sample, 6,000 nationwide phone numbers. But then in response to that, the sample size was only 600 people. Well, 600 people is a pretty good sample size, but that's out of 6,000. So that's quite a low response rate, right? And so who's going to respond? Well, probably people, students, target population people that have strong opinions, or have, strong opinions. So 600 out of 6,000, is that a high response rate? I think not. Not a high response rate at all. Quite low. So that builds in bias. Again, why does it build in bias? Well, it builds in bias because you always got to ask this because thing, right? So it builds bias because, again, low response rate. Also, it's a low response rate, and this means that people with strong opinions probably answer, and this may skew the results because they have strong opinions about, bad language, sex, and so on, because they may be in themselves very conservative, but maybe the rest of the students from 15 to 21 could care less. So, we have to look at response rate. The question itself, that there is too much sex, bad language, and violence on the television, is it leading to a particular response, right? Did they give them the idea, like, is there a problem with language and violence on television? Yes, no, explain. How do you feel about it? But that there is too much sex, bad language, and violence in television already is suggesting that there's a problem, and so it tends to lead towards a particular response. So, that's the kind of thing that you're looking at. And as far as an answer goes to the, you're not going to answer exactly the way any model answer goes, but these are the kinds of things that the examiners would think about. Phone numbers were chosen using random sampling. This means that each phone number in the country was equally likely to be chosen, so that's a good thing. Sampling phone numbers is not the same as sampling young people. A random sample of young people was not taken, as not all households in which 15 to 21-year-olds live have a landline phone, right? In particular, many student flats and so on in which 18 to 21-year-olds live lack landlines. So this is a huge problem. The households which do not have a landline phone will not be sampled. If lacking or having a landline phone is connected to used opinions on violence, sex, and bad language, then it creates a bias in the sample. So they tend to confine themselves to this whole phone number, phone lines and landlines, and that causing bias simply because there's a number of people within this category of 15 to 21 that probably will be excluded from the survey. But there's other things that you can talk about. And so this is the kind of thing that we're looking at explaining when they ask these kinds of questions on exams.